Every star remembers their first time. Whether it was a big break, a little break, or a lucky break, one job changed their lives and fortunes forever. This time around, John Schneider and Dean Cain share memories about their first times. Here is an actor so skilled at role-playing that he boldly fibbed his way through his first big audition, landed the part in style, then went on to become a global celebrity, all at age 18. John Schneider recalls his first time.
I was born in New York, so I lived in New York for the first 14 years of my life, did lots of community theater, lots of school theater, and then moved to Atlanta with my mother with IBM. I'd been there for 3.5, 4 years when I had got the news about this audition for Dukes of Hazzard. But I was doing theater at the Academy Theater and the Alliance Theater and all kinds of stuff. So I was an actor, in Atlanta from New York.
He was found on that initial kind of talent search where they went to, I guess, Dallas and Nashville and Atlanta and looking for country folk, to populate this show.
And I heard about this audition, so I put together all the information I had from all my actor friends and went and tried to nail that sucker.
He was a big, great-looking guy. There's some guys are good-looking, but John was classically handsome. And some guys have a little bit of confidence, but John had loads of it.
I borrowed a friend of mine's pickup truck and drove it around for a couple days. Wanted to get the feel of this rather than, So I showed up with a Budman t-shirt, torn up, it was a workout shirt, and a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer.
John was the one that really came out of the woodwork. I mean, he's right out of high school.
I was 18 years old. I told him I was 24 because that's what they were looking for. I told him I was from Snailville, Georgia, because that's what they were looking for.
He was afraid he wouldn't be hired if the producers knew how young he was.
And they said, "Can we help you?" I said, "Oh yeah, I'm here for that the Dukes of Hazzard thing. It's hot as a bear. Would you want a beer?" Put my 6-pack on the coffee table and pulled one open. No, that's okay. Just sign in. So I signed in. I drank my beer. When they called me in, I pulled another one off and brought my beer in there and read for them. I learned one thing that actually has served me many times since then. If you aren't exactly what they want from the moment you walk in the door, you'll never convince them otherwise.
When I first met John, it was an instant friendship, and who knew it would last this long?
She, as far as I knew, she already had the role of Daisy, so she was coming in to read with people.
I looked at him, and he was so tall and cute and sweet, and he told me good luck. And John read with me, and I just felt it had to be his part.
First time I met Tom was in the men's room at what was then the Burbank Studios. Walked in the bathroom and then saw there was a guitar in the stall. I saw a guitar and some boots. I said, "Hey, whose guitar is that?" He said, "Mine, what do you think? It's in here with me, idiot."
Yeah, I had a guitar with me.
The guitar had a lot to do with our instant camaraderie.
We've always had a real, a great chemistry, and right from the beginning.
The first night we met, I went over to his hotel and we're passing guitar back and forth, singing James Taylor and Billy Joel and all these different things. So it was a good way to meet. We really hit it off from that point on.
They struck it rich in the fact that we did bond as well as we did, and that we did have such camaraderie and chemistry throughout the entire cast.
He had the talent, and he had the confidence. He was something. He stood out.
Thought he was a big kid, full of piss and vinegar, and which is very much what the part entails.
John and I just had a ball. We had so much fun.
It's not like work, and it wasn't like work for anybody else either, because they just enjoyed watching us enjoy ourselves. If you can put that through the television, people are going to love it.
The shows had a look, and they had a speed of just the visual input that had never really been seen on television before.
Down in Georgia, we were just wild. We were getting away with everything. We were basically actor stuntmen.
Oh, he's a hell of a driver. He went to Bondurant, the driving school.
and he picked it up very quickly. He just was a natural driver.
He's a smart actor, see. He's going into this series about cars, and the first thing he does is to take a course in high-performance driving. And he's out there throwing 360s and 180s and stopping the car on a dime.
I think we lost him.
Huh. You got as much chance of losing them as I have of sprouting horns, honey. All right, Gus, better hunker down. You ain't gonna believe what's coming.
Old Bo picked that up when he was a linebacker at the Hazzard County High School. You should have seen some of them games.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about it. It was the best action ever filmed for a television series and set the gold standard that's still imitated today.
It would have been easy for somebody to get killed in that show.
Permanent injuries? No. I have just a mark here because during there was a girl in town. Luke was in love with the girl was in love with Luke. She fell out of a rowboat, so John Schneider, Bo, had to jump in and save the girl, and the alligator came off the side. So I wrestled an alligator. Really did. I actually wrestled an alligator. The guy told me, he said, the alligator's gonna want to get away from you as much as you are him. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. But so he said, just grab it, and he's going to move his leg. So you grab him and turn him, and it'll look great because he'll be flailing and his leg will be going. So that's what I did. Like that, I let the alligator go, and sure enough, he went away, and I came back up, but it just scratched my chest up a lot. My 11-year-old daughter is very proud of that. See that? That's where my dad wrestled an alligator and got all scratched up by the alligator. How many 11-year-olds can say that about their dads, huh?
From moonshine runner to superhero's father, John Schneider continues when we return.
John used to go, Catherine, there's so many women throwing themselves at me. And I said, well, duh. And he goes, well, so I appreciate them all. They're all so beautiful. He goes, is that wrong?
John not only became a TV star, John and Tom, they became heroes to a generation of younger kids. Suddenly, because the Dukes of Hazzard went right to the top of the heap, it was a hit show within a couple of weeks.
At that point, the National Enquirer had me down for 15,000 letters a week.
John used to go, Catherine, there's so many women throwing themselves at me. And I said, well, duh. And he goes, well, so I appreciate them all. They're all so beautiful. He goes, is that wrong? I said, no, that means that you're like a healthy 21-year-old, okay? That's right on. That's great.
When Dukes was on, my mother collected just about everything that there was. So I have a lot of the memorabilia from then.
It was a classic show. We had a lot of imitators. And I don't think that anybody could have guessed that 27 years later, the Dukes of Hazzard would still be a hit show, not only on cable in the United States, and that an entirely new generation of kids would think it was a new show.
So this thing called Smallville came around. And if I didn't have Denver Pyle's Uncle Jesse, in my soul, Jonathan Kent, as people know him, would not exist.
I think John Schneider is Jonathan Kent. I think he's aged tremendously well, and he was a pretty young guy, but now he's so rugged, and he's the dad, and he's very particular about how that relationship goes.
I think John's handled it real well. I think he's carved himself out a nice little place there. And I was really flattered that they, wrote me a part.
Yeah, he's a class act. As you probably know, he was one of the founders and continues to be deeply involved with the Children's Miracle Network.
I'm proud of and happy for John for the life that he's created for himself, because it could have gone a whole different way. He was really young, and he really has been an amazing person.
We went through our little things now and then, but by and large, it was really one of the happiest times of my life.
It's 27 years ago I started Dukes of Hazzard, and we're still talking about it. We're talking about it, not like, gee, whatever happened to that, but we're talking about it like it's current, and it is current. How can that possibly be?
John Schneider has been in the public eye for over 25 years, with a successful hit-filled singing career and roles on a multitude of shows from King of the Hill, Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, to the smash WB series Smallville. This former pro football player tells us an origin story that begins on the beaches of Malibu, takes a hop, skip, and a jump to the world's most famous zip code, then soars up and away with America's favorite superhero. Dean Cain takes us back to the start of his career on My First Time.
I was born in Detroit, Michigan, at Selfridge Air Force Base. My mother had already been divorced from my biological father, and she was living with her parents, so she was always enamored with Hollywood and the idea of being a Hollywood starlet. So she moved out to Los Angeles. She picked up myself and my brother, and we moved out to Malibu and lived in Paradise Cove, which is a trailer park. But it's a trailer park in Malibu. It's pretty ideal. Kids that I grew up with in Malibu, Chris Penn, Sean Penn, Rob Lowe, Charlie Sheen, Emilio Estevez, all these kids were we all grew up in the same area. And Sean Penn was the first one to get into film and acting and doing something. I heard about some of the other kids were getting into it. Rob Lowe was getting into it in the high school years and things. I'd never even entertained the idea that I wanted to be an actor or work in the film business. I was a student and an athlete. I wanted to play sports and go to school. I went off to Princeton University. I was lucky enough to get accepted there and played football there and ran track and played volleyball and had a great, wonderful college experience. And then I was an All-American football player there and set a couple of NCAA records, which got enough attention from the professional ranks that I was able to go play football for the Buffalo Bills for a short time till I got injured. So within a few months, the two things that I had always done best in my life, schoolwork and football, were gone. And I was suddenly sort of thrust out there into the world and having to make a living. So I started acting. I finally got a few little guest starring roles. Beverly Hills 90210.
In the episode that apparently everybody on the planet saw, episode of Beverly Hills 90210, where he played Shannon Doherty's love. And it was funny because I saw that episode and he just jumped out so much that I said, it's got a matter of time for this guy.
Here I was, feeling guilty for deceiving you when you knew all along I wasn't French.
Well, maybe not all along, but the truth is I'm really glad you turned out to be a red-blooded American girl.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't regret missing your plane and staying here with me in Europe?
No, not at all. I really think I'm falling in love with you, Dylan. I mean, Rick.
And then I was lucky enough to go in for this project, the new Superman project, called Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. I walked in the room, and I was apparently the first actor that they had seen. Sitting there, he says, "Hi, how are you, Dean? Nice to meet you." I said, "Nice to meet you." And so we read the scenes, and I said, "That's great, thank you." Shook my hand. I said, "Thank you, bye." And I left. And a week went by, and 2 weeks went by, and I thought, okay, there goes, that's just another project that's gone. And then the next day, my agent called and said, "Hey, they're pretty high on you for this Superman project." We had to do these 2 scenes, and there was a possibility that you have to learn to do this 3rd scene. And I did my 2 scenes with the different actresses, and I sat out there knowing they're gonna say, "Dean, you can go home now." And I would get that phone call that I was gonna play Superman. Well, they came out and they said, "Dean, they'd like to see that 3rd scene." And automatically, right then at that moment, all that bravado and confidence that I had was flushed down the toilet. I thought, I screwed this up. It was mine, and I've done something to screw it up. I could not believe it. Fortunately, I was prepared to do the third scene, and that was a scene between myself and my father, which was actually in the pilot. And Eddie Jones played my father in the show.
It seemed right to me for the part, certainly for Superman. He seemed to have command of himself.
When we finally shot the pilot, it was, I think, January or February of 1993. And we didn't go on the air until, I think, September of that year.
From Beverly Hills High to the lost planet of Krypton, Dean Cain returns with more stories about his first time.
And every day that I was gone for a period of about 18 hours. Every single day, 5 days a week.
The show really was a romantic comedy that happened to be about this woman named Lois and this guy named Clark, and he just happened to be Superman.
I think it was a challenge for him because in essence he was playing two different parts. He's playing Clark Kent and then he's playing Superman.
Dean, when you watch him work, has a kind of diffidence as Clark Kent, a kind of very subtle Cary Grant-esque diffidence. But then when you see him take action, and he stands there with a confidence and a strength and a physical grace that is commanding and imposing. And for me, playing Lex Luthor, it was fantastic.
Samuel Platt, Dr. Baines, those probably aren't the only skeletons in your closet.
So you become both my judge and executioner?
Like any other citizen of the planet, I must obey the law. I am not above it. You, it seems, believe you are.
I hold a certain position in the city.
Yes. And there is nothing that would please me more than to see you dethroned and behind bars like any common criminal. That day will come.
Well, I trust not. But, as they say, let the games begin.
Oh, one more thing. If you ever need to find me, all you have to do is look up.
The flying was very interesting because, well, I'm an athlete, first and foremost, so for me that was a lot of fun.
The flying stuff, we would do a couple different things. There would be a thing called a teeter-totter. It would be like a teeter-totter we'd do that would do like smaller, lower level things with Dean, just, rising up a little bit, and maybe picking up Lois Lane, Terry Hatcher. And then we do the bigger ones, which were big rigs on the stage against green screen, which he would be flying up in the air probably about 20, 30 feet.
People don't realize you got two little screws kind of coming out of your sides, and they drop a cable on each one, and that's it. That's how they fly you. So all the rest of it you have to do as the actor. You have to find your balance and be able to step off and move at the right time, and it's a difficult thing.
The other thing that Dean would do very intelligently is he created a gym off stage for himself, and he'd work out every day. He also had the burden of having to maintain this incredible physique.
I think he told me his body fat was around 7%, which puts him in world-class athlete range. That spandex suit is particularly unforgiving.
I was gone for a period of about 18 hours, every single day, 5 days a week. And we would start work Monday morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'd finish Saturday morning at light, 7 o'clock in the morning.
One of the things that allowed him to handle it was the fact that, as I told you, that he played basketball during the lunch hour.
Playing basketball all the time, so we wanted to go play basketball, so they built a little basketball court. And, there were some fun times there when I look back on it when Clooney was shooting ER and all the guys around Friends were doing their thing there, and we'd have basketball games. And when they were shooting Batman, there was a time where it was myself and George Clooney and then Chris O'Donnell. We had Batman, Robin, Superman all in the same court.
was interesting for me to watch Dean and Terry because I'd never been in a situation like this where you watch young actors get their first big break and then see what it does to them and how it works on them.
The objective of a career in Hollywood is longevity. It's not about being a flash in the pan. You know, Dean got his break in Lois and Clark playing that role. But the question always is, what do you do with the fame? What do you do with the power when it comes to you?
Dean has deliberately made, I think, really interesting career choices since then.
I don't doubt that as time goes by, he will choose and continue to act, he will direct, he will produce, he'll go in a multifaceted direction.
Every job that you take, you have to ask the question, do you live to work or do you work to live? I work so that I can live and provide for my family and my friends and myself. That's what I do. I enjoy the artistic part of it, and that's the balance that I've been able to find for the last 7 years. That's where I am now, but interview me in 5 or 10 years, I'll be someplace else, I bet you. Stay tuned.
Dean went on to produce and host Ripley's Believe It or Not and had major roles in Out of Time with Denzel Washington and the series Vegas, co-starring Cheryl Ladd. Next time on My First Time, see how the stars turn those big breaks, little breaks, and lucky breaks into gold.